Howdy folks, it's Saturday, January 26th. We're down in the workshop. It's probably around 10 a.m. Linda was at the house and we have a showing this morning at 9. Keep us in your thoughts and prayers that we get a reasonable offer. Anyways, I wanted to show you. John always talks about the fact that I don't throw anything away. So these are kick plates and rails. These are kick plates and rails. They're made out of the old, that's the parts or the pieces that'll go into it. Made out of the old 2x6s from the house. These will be for the verticals right here. This is some cherry. Some of it's new stuff, some of it's old. That'll be for kick plates and rails. And then here's a couple of pieces of cherry that I'll use and cut the edge, cut slices off for kick plates and rails. You know, the facing on the edge, on the outer edge. So, like I say, John says I don't throw anything away. You know, if I get a piece of 2-inch lumber, what I'll do is, and I can't use it, it's an end, I'll put it in the box and I'll save it for something. Well, I did that about a month and a half ago. I had a bunch in there. And so what I've got here is I glued up different pieces, and you can see them probably here. Like there's one, there. I think this one we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I have 12 boards that I had glued up. Now, when they're glued, when I glue them edge to edge, and they're, you know, whatever, as long as the shortest board is, basically. And then I let them set and harden. But like this is the leftovers of one of those glue ups of several boards, and there's another one, so you can see I'm down to almost nothing there. And there's my shortest point. So what I did this morning while I was waiting for Linda to come down is I took those, and I think the longest one might have been about 14, 15 inches, and I cut them into like an 8-inch and a 6-inch slice, and did the same on a glue up with smaller boards. And so to do that, you know, I had that big board and I ran it through my table saw like that. And you see that's 2 inches. And once I got that done, then I laid them all out so that the grain, you see this grain is going like this, I don't want to have, and so the next one then should go opposite. And that's the way I laid them out. Now these are all cherry boards. And so what I've done is laid them out here so that they're alternating. This is a cutting board that'll be 18 inches by about 12 1/4. So I've just got it laid out there. I numbered them 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 9. There's 9 of these strips that I cut. And then I just drew a pencil line, square, so that when I'm gluing these up, I can line up against the pencil line. Now, one thing that I've never done, and when you do this, remember, this is the end of the grain. There's the end, there's the edge, okay? So this is the end of the board. So this whole thing is end grain. Now, what I've never thought I could do is run it through the planer. So this is a board not quite big enough for that. And so what I did this morning is I set my planer, and I have it on end, I know it's hard. You can maybe see the difference there. And I set my planer up so that I could run this through just to see if I'm going to have if I can do that, because it's a lot easier than to get it level and then just to lightly sand it. And so I know now that will work. So my next process, it won't be today because we're going to work on flooring, but my next process will be to put glue on each of these edges and then squeeze them all together, line up my lines, and then clamp it up, and then put my angle iron, a piece on top and a piece on the bottom. Do that in 2 different places so that this thing stays flat. And then when it's done, what I'll do is I'll take it out and then I'll trim this edge and this edge, and I'll glue another piece of lumber on it. Probably, cut it down to size, probably something like this, okay? And so that'll be there, and I'll glue it on the front and on the back. The reason for that is then what I'll do is run it through the planer so that when it gets to the end won't be this point, it'll be the piece of wood that I put on, and because this, when you're doing it on end, will have a tendency to chip, and I know you know that'll then take care of that. When I'm done getting this cherry all milled and flat and sanded, I would normally stop, but what I'm going to do is, this is a piece of walnut and this is a piece of maple, and what I'm going to do is take a thin ribbon of that walnut. Well, actually, once this is all oiled up, it'll be very red, and I'll take a thin ribbon of the maple and edge all the way around here, and then I'll take a ribbon of walnut and edge over that maple, and that'll give us a nice contrast on this cutting board. So you know, that would have otherwise went into a burn pile, but I instead of making cherry cutting boards out of my scraps. Thanks for following our progress. Oh, here's some more scrap. What I'll probably do, a lot of this is cherry, and what I'll probably do is when we make the shelves for different closets or the pantry, is I'll take a piece of this cherry and I'll glue it to the edge of a piece of 3/4 inch plywood to give it that appearance that it's cherry when you're looking at the shelf straight on. I clearly won't use all of that, but I've just saved all those scraps just because they're a decent length, and I'm not sure just what I'll use them for other than those shelves. Thanks for following.